need all of your eyes on me. Make sure you guys are giving your full attention to the panel as you can turn so I can see your eyes. Okay. Okay. So Darcy, you can get situated for me so I can have your full attention. Okay. So what we're doing today, we are starting something new. We are starting a research-based project, and it's also going to be our last survival topic that we are going to be doing. So far, we have read Hatchet, we learned about Brian's story out in the wilderness, we read Guts, which was Gary Paulson's own true life stories that inspired Hatchet, and then we made our own little survival guides. But what we're going to be doing today is we are actually going to be utilizing a real survival guide. So this book, you can actually use it if you are going to go camping, if you're going to go exploring somewhere, and you wanted to bring along some information to help you if you ever found yourself in a sticky situation. So this is a real resource that someone can use out in the wild. Gus, put your head behind me. So what you guys are going to be doing throughout this project, there are going to be three main things or three main reasons why we are doing this assignment. Number one, this is going to be good practice with resource and research skills. Because I assure you, when you guys get into junior high, which will be pretty soon, into high school, if you want to go on to college, you are going to be doing multiple research-based projects and research papers. So this is going to help us and help you guys prepare for that. Another thing, this text, it may be a little bit different than what you're used to. It has a lot of information, a lot of different ways that it's set up to help you, but when you look for the information, you're going to have to utilize different things in the book. Because I'm not going to tell you, hey, you can look on this page. You're going to have to look for it yourself. But there are multiple ways you can find the information. At the very beginning, there is a table of contents. Now, when you look at it, it has different categories. There are 11 different things. There is essentials, strategy, climate and terrain, there's food, camp and craft, and goes on all the way to disasters. Now, when you're looking up your information, a good way to find it is to flip to this page. So if you were trying to find out, what food could you have in the wild, someone raise your hand, where do you feel like you need to go? What page would you find food on?
108.
Yeah, 108. So make sure you are using this, and it'll be a good guide. Also, there's an index on the back, so it'll be good practice. This project is going to be a good practice on navigating text such as this. And the last reason why we're doing this project is we're going to be practicing taking information like this and putting it into our own words. Because this information, it's very useful, but it's pretty blunt, and I feel like it could be definitely put into more friendly terms for people y'all's age. So we're going to be practicing taking this information, putting it into your own words. So those are the main three reasons why we are doing it. But now, we've talked about the reasons, let me actually introduce you to the real assignment. So basically what you guys are going to be doing, when you look in the book, when you look back at the table of contents, you're going to see on number 3, climate and terrain. So in this book, it gives a description of different regions you can be in, that you could possibly be stranding in, or trying to survive. Now, there are 6 different regions that this book gets. So if you guys can look back here for me, make sure your eyes are back here. So, the different possible regions that this book gives a description about are polar regions, mountains, seashores, islands, arid regions, that's like a desert, and tropical regions. So 6 different options. Now, what you guys are going to be doing, y'all are going to be choosing one of these 6 regions. And after you make your choice, you're then going to utilize the knowledge in the book to describe to someone how they could survive in one of the 6 terrains. So, some different categories could be what food could they find, what shelter could they find, the essentials on how to live and survive. Now, when you look up your information, you are going to be utilizing the information in the book. You may kind of have an idea of, different things after reading Guts and Hatchet, but this book is going to be your main source of information. So, if you are trying to look up information about shelter, make sure you're looking at the contents. There's a whole chapter on shelter. So make sure you're using the information in the book to help you with your region. So any questions so far? I'm going to go over a checklist, but any questions so far about just the main point, what we're trying to do? Anything unclear about this project? Okay, so let me guys show you a checklist. What we're going to be doing, or how we're going to be gathering our information. It's going to be on Google Classroom. It's going to be Google Slides. So it's going to be a Google Slide presentation similar to when we did the extraordinary persons. So on each slide, you're going to have different criteria. So I'm going to show you guys the rubric, and I will go through what you need on the slides. So when you go to this, like I said, you'll just go through Google Classroom, and they're going to be Google Slides. So if I'm on Google Classroom, we are third period. You'll just go to the normal Google Classroom page, and you're seeing the tab that says SAS Survival Research, and you'll just click on that. Actually, let me go back and click on this. So this is what your slides are going to look like. Now, this is just your checklist. So this is technically slide number 1. You're not going to delete this, but you're not putting in information technically on the first slide. So this checklist, let me put it in full view. So here's everything you need in order to do well on this project and get all the information you need. So make sure as you're working on this project, you are looking back at this checklist. Make sure you have everything you need for each slide. So this is number 1 technically, but slide number 2, you are required to do this slide, and this is just your title slide. So on this slide, and you can head it How to Survive, and then you're just going to plug in your region. So say if you're doing polar region, you just say How to Survive in the polar region. And then if you look in the parentheses, this parentheses will lead you to more directions. It says tell which terrain you chose, so you just plug it in, and then describe it. So you're going to describe your terrain. So maybe what's the weather like, what's the climate like, just a little description of that terrain. So that is your second slide, title slide, that is required. However, after the second slide, you have options. So there are 7 possible things, 7 possible survival criteria that you can choose from for your region. And you are only going to pick 5. So you will pick 5 out of the 7. So here are the 7 you can potentially pick from. So number 1 is survival kit. So if you are in this region, what would you need? So you're going to pick 4 to 6 items for your terrain, but you're also going to give a description of why that item would be important in that terrain. So you're not just listing the items, you're also saying why you need this in that terrain. And then food, that's another potential one you can do. You are just going to put what food you can find and how. So what and how. So notice there are some slides that there are multiple elements for, so make sure you don't leave one out. So following directions is going to be very crucial for this project. Another option is water. Just how do you find water in your terrain? Shelter, how to build or find one in your terrain. That's another option you have. I really like this one. I feel like y'all can have fun with this one. This is if disaster strikes. So there's a section in the book that gives descriptions of different disasters that can occur in regions. So you are going to pick one that can happen in your region, give a description of it, and how to survive it. And then medical emergency. You also have a slide or a place in the book that gives description of different injuries that can happen, different medical conditions. You will pick one that can happen in your region, and then you'll just give a description of it and how to administer first aid to help that person. And then the last one, rescue tips. There's a section in the book. Like I said, if you've noticed, there's always going to be a section in the book that will correlate to that specific slide. So make sure you're getting the right information for that slide. So rescue tips, that's just ways that you can get found if maybe a plane flies by, different messages you can decode, and I feel like that one would be fun as well. So those are your potentially 7 ones you can choose from, and you will pick 5 of 7. Does that make sense about the process of picking? Okay. And then this is your next required slide. This is going to be where you put your bibliography, because you do need to cite this source. You have to cite this book because that's where your information is coming from. an example of how to format that. You need author's last name, first name, the title of the book, and then so on. But the directions are there for you how to set that up. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys before I give you some time to explore the book, I'm going to show you an example of a title slide and the first potential one you can pick. So what I didn't want to do one of the regions. I just kind of had fun, was creative. So I did How to Survive on the Moon. Also, notice the title's a little bit bigger, and then I have a description. Now, you can put pictures as a background, but I kind of did this on purpose because the wording is a little difficult to see. So just make sure if you have a picture on your background that your wording is very clear. Also, another thing about pictures, that is fine. It's not a part of your grade, so if you don't include pictures, that's okay. But if you do decide you want to have pictures, I just want one per slide because I don't want this to just be an explosion of pictures. I'm focused on the information. So this is the title slide and my description. The moon is a cold, dry orb with a surface that is covered in deep craters and endless rocks and dust. It has no atmosphere and oxygen is non-existent. Though survival on the moon may be difficult, the following slides will offer various tips. So notice I kind of gave a description about the moon, what it's like, the atmosphere, it's cold, there's rocks everywhere, and then I even said, the next slides will offer you tips to survive on the moon. So that's what the title slides should look like. Any questions about the title slide? What to put, what information about your terrain? Okay. So the next slide I'll show you, then I'll show you the rubric. I forgot to show you guys that. This is an example of what you can do for your survival kit. So when you put your information down, I have two different ways. If you want to do it in paragraphs, that's all right. But if you'd rather do bullets and numbers, that's okay as well. But if you decide to do bullets or numbers, just make sure all your information is in complete sentences. I want this in full thoughts, complete sentences. So for my survival kit, I picked 4 items and I just numbered them. So to give you an example, I said a helmet and spacesuit, and then why you need this. I said you need this because the moon's atmosphere is not composed of oxygen. You need a helmet and spacesuit in order to breathe and sustain life. So I listed it first, and then a complete sentence about the information. Okay. So the last thing, the rubric. This is going to be a total of 35 points. And as you'll notice, the actual research information, your words, that's going to get you the most points. So 25 points. Now, I really, like I've emphasized, I want this information coming from the book. So your information is going to be judged on how accurate it is, how helpful it is for a person, and if it's put into your own words. Now, I don't want to have, you put a sentence, maybe change 1 or 2 words. That's not going to be enough. And if it's well developed. Then, grammar and mechanics, that still counts. Capitalization, punctuation, that's 5 points. Then, your bibliography page at the very end, having that all set up correctly, formatted correctly, that'll get you 3 points. And then, making sure you have all the slides you need, all the required slides, in the end, with the 5 slides you need and your title slide and bibliography page, you're going to have 7 slides. And then you're going to have, like I said, this will end up being a total of 35 points. So, what I want you guys doing now, since I've gone through this, well, first of all, is there any questions at all? Anything about the rubric that didn't make sense? Anything about this project not making sense? Okay. So what I want you guys to do now, before I get you guys working on the slide, I want you to take 6 minutes. I want you just to explore the book because I want you to really make sure you're familiar with it, familiar with where you need to find your information, and start getting an idea of what of the 6 regions you would want to do. So go ahead, I'm going to give you 6 minutes. Start flipping through the book. During the 6 minutes, I don't want to see any books down. I want you to use the full 6 minutes to look through the book, and I want you to get a good idea of which terrain you want to pick. So 6 minutes starting now. Make sure every single book is open.